Empower Radio presents Simple Steps, Real Change with Cheryl Maloney and Kenny Brixey. You'll find inspiration, support, and simple steps to help you on the path to a better life. Simple steps lead to real change. Here are your hosts, Cheryl Maloney and Kenny Brixey.
There are people who come into our lives that we realize have a special gift to help others. Our guest tonight, Max Ryan, is just that person for me. Max is the master of the law of attraction, and he's here to help you find heaven on earth. But first tonight, this is just a really special night for us here at Simple Steps because it's Kenny Brixey's birthday. And I, for one, am celebrating because the day Kenny was born put in motion events that have really changed my life for the better. I'm blessed to have him as my friend and my business partner. Kenny, happy birthday.
Well, thank you very much. I didn't know you were going to do that tonight.
I know you did. There are some things, though, I just don't share with you, but at least they're fun and good, right?
Yeah. Well, that was a nice surprise. Thank you very, very much.
Okay, are you going to tell anybody how old you are, or are you keeping that a secret?
I'll keep that a secret because it's so much fun to play with when people actually want to know. You know, I'll let them guess a little bit before I surprise them.
You're really still 29 is what you're telling me, right?
Yeah, this is like, what is this, the 29th anniversary of my, no, I don't know. my aunt did that. She had the 29th anniversary of her 29th birthday until it became more anniversaries than actual birthdays, so she had to adjust.
Well, you know, I got a kick out of my sister, and this was in the old days, and, you know, she used to tell everyone she was about 5 years younger than me, and she's 3 years older, but I got a real kick out of it when she started telling people she was 10 years older than what she really was, because she wanted everybody just to think, wow, she looks really good for her age.
Yeah, I've never really known how to act with my age and my birthday because for years my father introduced me as his brother. And, you know, it was really fun to just make up all these stories about why we had the same name. Before we go any further, let's get some housekeeping out of the way here before I just let it slip right by me again.
Okay.
Our guest tonight, I know that the audience is going to want to ask questions and talk to Max. So here's a number that you can do that. If you would like to ask him a question, or Cheryl or myself, feel free to give us a call at 248-809-3475. Again, that's 248-809-3475. Or if you're just too shy to talk on the radio, that's quite all right. We don't judge anybody here. We're going to give you an option. You can send us an email. That email is simplesteps@me.com. So be sure to send in your questions. We would love to answer them for you.
Well, fabulous. Well, I know we want to jump right into the show and welcome Max. Max is a teacher who moved from the classroom to what I call the world room. He's expanded his reach far beyond maybe what he even thought when he first got started. He's here to help others realize their potential. He's the author of Creating Heaven on Earth, the host of the Magic Life radio show on Blog Talk Radio, and the creator of so many wonderful programs on the law of attraction, A Course in Miracles, and manifesting into your life what you choose. He's a life and spiritual coach, a dynamic visionary, and we're blessed, Max, to have you on the show. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you so much, Cheryl and Kenny, for being here. I love that. Dynamic. I like that word.
Yeah, well, thanks for being here. This is great.
Yeah, Max, I think dynamic is kind of an understatement when it comes to you. The one thing, as I've gotten to know you a little bit, is your energy is dynamic, it's effervescent, and it definitely is something that, as I listen to you and have learned from you, you have this spirituality, this charisma that just draws people to you. And I know I'm one of them. I've just been amazed with you. But if you could tell our audience just a little bit about your background, because you started out as a teacher, and now, as I said, you're teaching in the world's classroom. So if you could give us a little bit of background.
Oh, as soon as I'm finished blushing, I will do that. Yeah, I've got an extensive background. I've worked, not worked, but I've been a spiritual seeker since I was very, very, very young. Literally, from the time I was probably about 7 years old, I was reading spiritual material and really being connected to what we would maybe call the other side, which I think is all the same side, so whatever. And so through that, I really studied many different religions, different paths, different metaphysics and science and all of that. And it came to me that I wanted to express myself, and I wanted to actually share this work with the world. How it manifested itself was that I became an actor. And I thought, you know what, I want to share with the world the enormity of spirit. And I thought that acting was the way to do that. And that opened me up into a whole new world, actually. And I acted for a long time. But acting brought me to a place, as you said, Cheryl, of being a real teacher, because I was raised in Los Angeles, but that passion brought me to New York to be an actor. And one of the first jobs I got was being a teacher, using theater to work with students and teach them different things. And I wasn't teaching them theater, but I was using concepts of theater to teach them different subject matters. And as I did that, I started to really realize that actually teaching and communicating was really my gift in the world. And I did that for years. I taught thousands of students all over the New York area, and then I started to teach other teachers how to do what I did. And then I got to a point where I was like, well, wait a second. I really want to share more of my passion, which is, really things about the law of attraction, how the universe works, what we would say is GOD or LOA, law of attraction or GOD, same thing in my book. And so I started my own business, Max Ryan Enterprises, where I started coaching people. I started doing workshops, and I started seeing that, people have a thirst and a need to find a meaning in their life and know that they are actually the creator of their reality. And it gives me great pleasure, and I feel honored to be able to be someone that can help them to really realize that they're actually creating their reality. And so that's sort of my background, and I just love what I do. I love connecting with people and helping them to realize their true potential and their power.
Well, Max, the phrase law of attraction has gotten watered down because there's so many people out there using it that really don't have the background that you do. How do you teach it differently than how do you take it beyond that surface level? Yeah. Vision it and it's yours.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Well, one of the things is that what I teach is I teach that there is actually our ego is separating this kind of thing into boxes. There's law of attraction, and then there's this, and this. The law of attraction is just the way that the world works. It's just the way that it works. Because if we think about anything that we've created in our life, if it is, like Cheryl was talking about her home before we got on the line, she was talking about that, and she said she had an image of always living near the water or whatever. She just thought that was the way it was going to be, and now she lives near the water, and she's got this beautiful place. And that's how it works. So what I help people to do is to say, you know what, there is something called the law of attraction, and you're right. It is about, what you know in your heart, in your soul to be true for you will manifest if you allow it. The allowing part is the part that the ego will get in the way. And, like the Course in Miracles, which is something that I teach a lot, is a perfect example in the Course in Miracles. He says in the Course in Miracles, you see what you expect what you invite. Your perception is the result of your invitation. So what you see, you will seek, and what you seek, you will find. So everything within us is already there if we can let go of what we think we should be doing or what we're supposed to be doing and all that stuff, because it's already literally ingrained in us to be happy if we allow it to come.
Well, here's I want to break in just. I know Cheryl has something to ask, but I'm going to break in here. Cheryl,
we're going to have fun with this all night. It's okay. Go for it, Kenny.
I know. Well, I just think it's really important. Max had mentioned it. I would like for you to tell your story about your experience in getting this new house that you just moved into, and then I'd also like to hear Max kind of interpret how the law of attraction was working in your experience there.
Well, and I will do a shortened version of it. I have never been great with visualization, but as I've been trying to do it more and more, I was visualizing myself with literally a deck chair looking out over water. And I knew that's where I needed to be, but I haven't done anything with it. I visualized it, I let it go, and literally a month ago, the lady that we were renting from said, yeah, I need to sell this house. Well, we went out looking for houses, and I kept seeing the picture of this house, and it's like, I just need to go into this house. I can't explain it. It's way too big. I don't need it, but I need to go into this house. And the minute I walked in, I knew this is exactly where I needed to be.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the short version of the longer story, but now I'm living in this place that I truly, in some ways, visualized way back when, and then let that go.
Oh, I'm. You know what, Cheryl? First of all, congratulations. I'm giving you a round of applause. Yay!
Yeah.
That's fantastic. And there's a couple of things in what you just said that are so key that I want everyone to hear. You said at the beginning that you're not very good at visualizations, and I want everyone to hear this, because many teachings with the law of attraction or whatever say you've got to visualize it, you have to visualize it, you have to. That's not true. That's not true, because some people can't. But, Cheryl, I'm going to ask you this. It started with a feeling, correct?
Yes, exactly.
Started with a feeling. Our feelings are our kind of GPS system. What we don't do is we don't follow our feelings because our ego gets in the way, like, oh, please, that's ridiculous, But your feeling, you stuck with your feeling, and you never had doubt. You just sort of said, okay, well, that feels good, whatever. It could happen, whatever, correct?
Right.
You didn't get in the way. You didn't start making a vision board. You didn't start focusing on it, whatever. Those all things can work, but you did what I would call step 3, the allowing part. You just said, okay, it will come. It doesn't matter, correct?
You know, that's very true. So I'm going to ask you the next question, because I think that I know that I'm not the only one that runs into this. So here I am. This is exactly where I know that I need to want to be. I'm in a very different place than I've ever been before. So after we get settled, all of a sudden, I'm going to describe this as the ego coming back up. The what if, and I found myself second guessing everything. So then I said, you know what? I have to let all that fall away, because I know that isn't truly me. That is the ego coming back into play. I've got to let that go. Does that sound right?
Exactly right. You saw the ego is our part of ourselves that is not, the Course in Miracles would say, that the ego is the part of us that does not think with love. So.
What a great point.
Yeah, so
and that's such a strong message.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? The part of us that does not think with love is literally not ourselves. It is not who we are at Source. At Source, we are only love. And if we can just stay with that, if we can, like the Course in Miracles will say, you must learn the cost of sleeping to yourself. And that is going to sleep and not remembering who you really are. And what you did so brilliantly, Cheryl, and anyone can do this if you practice it, you go, wait a second, that's not real. The real part said, oh, I created this. This feels good. This feels right. So anything that's not of that, you just say, oh, that's craziness. Thank you for sharing. I'm going to go back to what's real. That's what you did.
What a great idea. Now, let me ask you a question, because we run into this all the time with folks that are either part of our Facebook page or whatever the case may be that'll come and say, that's great, I can do all that, but I'm dealing with all these other really negative people. How do I move beyond literally their influence?
Stop looking at them. You stop giving them attention, because the more you give them attention, that's what you create life.
You know, that's almost, we were just talking about, you know, watching the news and watching the weather forecasts, and there's a lot of sensationalism in it. And you're saying exactly the same thing. Don't watch it. And don't give it. Yeah.
Let me just take just a moment to say here really quickly that, you know, I'm in a place that was sort of affected by all this. I'm in New York City, and I send all my love and prayers and good energy to all of the people out there that have gone through this major catastrophe. So I just wanted to say that. But it's right.
Absolutely.
What we I'm going to say that quote again from the course. You see what you expect, and you expect what you invite. Your perception is always going to create your reality over, and the title of the show is Creating Heaven on Earth. The way you create heaven on earth is you keep looking at heaven and not the insanity of the world.
How do you define heaven?
Heaven is a state of mind.
And everyone's state of mind is going to be somewhat different, correct?
Well, it's our natural state of mind. It's our natural state of mind.
So let's take that and run with it, because your book, your fabulous book, is Creating Heaven on Earth. What's the first thing you recommend people do when they've decided they do want to create heaven on earth?
Well, that's the Creating Heaven on Earth is a book that I'm actually finishing now that is part of my angel course, which is, but ultimately, if you're working with angels or you're working law of attraction, it's all about realizing where your vibration is and saying, what am I focusing on? What am I pushing away? And what am I trying to push away? Because what we keep pushing away is what we're going to get more of. Have you ever heard of that phrase, what you resist persists?
Yes, absolutely.
Most of us walk through the world resisting what we don't want, resisting, and all that does is creating more of what we don't want. So the first step is to go, oh my goodness, look at all the things I'm pushing away from. I'm pushing away from debt. I'm pushing away from death. I'm pushing away from this. I'm pushing, and guess what? You get more debt. You get more sickness. You get more whatever it is. We have to have the wherewithal within ourselves, because our power of choice is the most powerful thing that we have in this space and time continuum, and I believe in any time continuum, to say, stop. Let me now look towards what makes me feel right and makes me feel good, and have the courage to keep going in that direction. And when you don't, when you say, oh, here's another thing I don't want, say, oh, I don't want that, but I do want this. This feels right. That's the first step, really, in creating your life.
Sorry, Max. I heard you actually on Pam Thomas's radio show. I actually heard you go through that exercise. All right, here's what I don't want. All right, let's move off what do I want. So I remember sitting there listening to you, and I had a big whiteboard in front of me, and I wrote down everything I didn't want, crossed it out, wrote what I wanted.
Yes.
And I had, as much as I followed law of attraction for a long time, you really brought that home to me, that message home to me. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Kenny. I know you're waiting to ask a question. I'm dominating, so I apologize. Go for it.
Well, yeah, it's just along the same line here. I heard somebody the other day say, what you entertain in your mind is what you give power to. Yeah. And which is the same thing Max is saying here. If I entertain what I don't want, that's what I'm giving power to. However, if it pops into my mind, I do not have to entertain that thought. I can, without fighting it, just bring in the polar opposite of it. You know, what do I want instead? So that was not a question. That was just a statement.
Because it does come back to what are we entertaining? And, I believe that the Course in Miracles and the Law of Attraction is actually the same thing. And the Course in Miracles talks about how we have a split mind that keeps going back and forth. And what we need to do is realize why we have the split mind is that the ego, what I would say the part of us that's the unloving part of ourselves, the part of ourselves that's making us feel bad all the time, that part of ourselves need to be seen clearly so that we can have the choice to say, oh, now I can have one mind with the source. I can ask. That's who we truly are anyway. That's all we are. So what we entertain, we will create more of what we entertain. You're right.
Right. Now, Max, when you're helping your clients, how do you teach them to stay focused this way? I'm going to go back to Cheryl's example. While she's in the middle of this house project, this incredible move, while she's in the middle of that, it's kind of easy to see, this is the law of attraction actually working here. I understand it now. Yeah. But next week, she's not going to be going through this thing. How do you teach people to keep their awareness in that direction as opposed to just letting things go back to normal and, it's just, okay, well, I'm not trying to attract anything today, so
Well, the fact is, Kenny, is that we're attracting everything in our life all the time.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what we need to do is that we need to be super aware of our internal, emotional meter reader, and it will always tell us the truth. It will always tell us the truth if we are honed into it and we tune it up. And that is going, what do I feel right now about that? What do I feel about her? What do I feel about this? What do I feel about that? And then always coming back to saying, I'm only going to move towards what feels right. Because we are guided at every moment of our life to go towards and to create what we would say heaven on earth at all moments, at all times. It's always happening. So the first step, really, and how I teach my clients is to be like, wait, what do you feel about that? Hold on. And then they'll go, ooh, I don't feel good about that. I'm like, okay, that's great. So what do you feel good about and what feels right here? And they will always, I will tell you, they'll always go, oh, yeah, you're right. This feels better. Let's go in this direction. This feels right. So I guess the short answer to that is to say, what do you feel? What do you feel? What do you feel?
Stay tuned in. Mm-hmm.
It truly is awareness. And so oftentimes we feel that, or we encounter people that say, you know what, I hear it, but I don't trust it. Yeah. And this is a conversation that we have so often with folks. I don't trust that feeling. Somebody else has to know better than I do. So I'm not going to listen to that feeling, that voice, whatever the case may be, right, because I don't trust it. How do you help them gain that trust in themselves?
Practice. It's practice. Because I'll come back to the Course in Miracles. The Course in Miracles says the thinking of the world is 180 degrees away from the thinking of God, which means that in this world, in a nanosecond, we will be pulled back into fear if we're not aware, if we don't keep. But once we do it, and once we keep doing it, one incredible way to do it is to do the lessons in the Course in Miracles, is to do the 365 lessons, because it will change your perception from fear to love. Whatever it is, you keep coming back to, okay, what's real here? What's real? What's crazy? What's insanity? This is real. This is real. Because the world will pull us back into, because I believe that everything in our life is always telling us, what do you believe? What do you believe? What do you believe? What's real? What's real? What's real? So if we can do that, we will shift our perception. And a shift in our perception is a miracle.
Oh, now, see, I love the way that you put that, because it's true. If you see things, I say to people, just take one step to the left or the right, because you're going to see the world differently. Yeah. And what you're talking about now is literally, truly just that and it is a very tiny shift that you need to make to be able to see that. It's got to be 15, 20 years ago that I pulled up the book Course in Miracles. And I know that I bought it and I brought it in because of Marianne Williamson, because at that point she was doing a Return to Love. I think that's the program she had. And I started reading the Course in Miracles, and I'm a neophyte compared to you, Max, and I will tell you that. But I just sat there and went, okay, what is sitting in front of me has no meaning except what I create for it. And that was my first introduction into this. So you've taken it to a whole other level.
Well, I've been a student of A Course in Miracles for 28 years, and actually, you know, I worked with Marianne in her house. A friend of mine called me when I was in high school and said, "Hey, there's this lady, and we go to her house and we talk about this book, and she's really cool. You want to come?" And I was like, "Okay." And it was Marianne, and we went to her house, and she was actually working on that book at that time, and you know, she was a great woman, and that was my introduction to A Course in Miracles, and she's been a bright light for many people to read this material and to understand that it is about just shifting our perception.
Well, we're about to go into break now, Max. Everyone will be back in just a couple of minutes. We're going to continue this fascinating and exciting conversation with Max on the law of attraction.
And now back to Simple Steps, Real Change with Cheryl Maloney and Kenny Brixey on Empower Radio.
Well, welcome back, everyone. We have the incredible Max Ryan with us tonight, and we are having so much fun. Before we get back to the questions and hearing what he has to say, I just want to remind you that we do have a call-in number tonight. You can call in with any questions you may have for him or Cheryl or myself. The number is 248-809-3475, or you can email a question to simplesteps@me.com. Well, Max, before we left, you had talked about shifting your perception, and I just have to share one of the most powerful shifts that I have ever experienced before I ask this next question. And that shift was to realize that fear is nothing more than the absence of love. That took the big, scary monster fear away and made it something I could deal with.
That's
when
right.
I learned that. And fear is the absence of love. And it was just so cool to learn that. And you're right, that is a miracle when you have that kind of shift. How do you work with your clients to reframe things like that? Because in the heat of the emotion, the heat of the event, it oftentimes is very difficult to remember that, you know, I can see this differently.
Well,
do you have a technique?
First of all, I want to say you're totally right that fear is the absence of love, and one thing that I always say is that when you are in fear, it is, and what the Course in Miracles says is that it's a sure sign that you're relying on your own power, which means your ego power, and not with the divine power, what we would call the divine power, which is the all-knowing source, whatever you call it, God or LOA. I don't care. So anyway, what was your question?
Yeah, I was just when we get in the heat of the moment, you know, how do you have any techniques that you can teach that help people stay into that awareness that they can shift, that they can have a different way of looking at it?
It's interesting that you say this, because in talking about what I taught as I was called an actor teacher, we used something called Augusto Boal, who was an amazing theatrician in South America. He created a whole way of doing theater where that took people, real people, on the stage and taught them about consequences of their actions. And one of the things, the tenets in that kind of work, is that we don't want to get to the point when the gun is pulled and we're going to shoot. Because once we get to that point, when we're in the heat of it and the craziness of it, it is not impossible, but it's very hard because the ego is so huge in that moment, it's really hard to stop. So on a holistic level, what we want to do is we want to train ourselves never to get to that point, because then the ego is running crazy and running wild. So we want to train ourselves by doing A Course in Miracles, by really practicing understanding who we really are, which is only love, over and over and over. But that said, I would say that if you are in the heat of the moment, in anything, the most, and it's so simple that it's crazy, the most effective thing to do is to breathe. Because when we breathe, scientifically it is proven that the part of the mind that's analyzing, that's figuring out, that's judging, actually that part of the brain, the mind, the brain starts to calm down when we breathe. And so what comes up is our intuitive self, our creative self, and it literally brings us back to who we are. So if you are in those times, to stop and go, wait a second, breathe. And when you breathe, you come back to who you really are. So that's a long answer for that question. Does that make sense? Do you hear what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
You know it does. I'm sitting here and what's occurring to me, because I know I've gotten to this place too, is you get so tied up in whatever's going on, you literally hyperventilate. So what you're talking about is that slow, methodical breath, because then you return to where you need to be, as opposed to getting caught up in the ego and getting caught up in
I do a thing in workshops with people, and I put them through a little process, and I say, listen, okay, close your eyes. I want you to think about that person that pisses you off, or that situation that makes you so mad and you're trying to figure it out. I want you to think about it. I want you to bring it up. I want you to bring it up. And then I have them bring it up, and then I stop them and go, okay, were you breathing? And they always go, no. I go, right now. And they all go, okay, I'm back. Because we cannot have the ego and what we would call spirit or higher self at the same time. You can't. It's one or the other. It's one or the other.
What a simple concept. Were you breathing? I mean, that truly is. And Max, I've got to tell you, I've heard things a lot of different ways, but I have never heard it quite that simply. So you're resonating loud and clear with me today.
It's all about simple steps. Oh.
Exactly.
It is all about simple steps, and you just gave me a new one. Okay, yes, breathe, but think about the breathing, and are you physically breathing as opposed to hyperventilating or not paying attention whatsoever, and that grounds you. It really does. Or it allows you to fly, depending on how you want to look at it, because now you're released from what is the ego and what is weighing you down.
Exactly.
Man, Max, you were just really hitting home today. I can't even begin to tell you how much I appreciate this today.
Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit. There are people out there, and we've had people now that have gone through the hurricane that are dealing with that. We have other people that are just trying to put the food on the table. They say, I don't have the energy. I don't have the energy to even think about creating heaven on earth, let alone creating my own reality. What do you say to people that are in those kind of situations to help bring them back?
Do you remember at the beginning of the show or earlier we were talking about what you don't have, what you're focusing on, what you don't have?
Yes, absolutely.
I would say to that person, what do you have? And people go, well, and it takes them off guard, and they go, well, I don't have. I'm like, what do you have? And literally, you have to start with, I've got a mouth here to say something. I've got oxygen. I've got a roof over my head. I have people around me. I have whatever. It's that simple. It is that simple. And sometimes the ego is so strong that and I run into it with my clients and people all the time. It's so strong that they almost can't even hear it. It's so simple because it's right in front of us. Heaven is happening in this moment right now. It's not happening. It's not somewhere we're going to get there. Someday we're going to die, then we're going to go to the pearly gates, and then finally we're going to get to heaven. No. It's right. It's right now.
It's right here, right now. Yeah, exactly.
And if you're saying, I don't even have the strength, I don't even have the strength, you're creating more I don't have strength. And I know it can sound harsh on some level, but we're getting what we're looking at all the time. So all we have to do is go, I have a choice. I can look at something else. Let me look at something else.
And breathe at the same time.
That's right.
I just love this. What a combination. Breathing and looking at what you have. Mm-hmm. I mean, there were some days, and, my story's one that's been out there. We got through a time when there were so many 300-point stressors that people went, why the hell aren't you in therapy? You go, okay, what do I have? Well, the flowers are blooming. Let me just focus on the flowers, because right now that's what's positive in my life. Okay, breathing. I can breathe. That's what's positive in my life. Yep. What a simple message.
Yeah, it is. And no matter how far we get along, into understanding metaphysical principle or whatever it is, we always have to come back to the simple. We have to come back to the simple. And I want to just address something here really quickly, is that, many times the law of attraction is about getting stuff. About somewhere where you're not. And here's the key. The key is to really be where you are and allow everything to start unfolding from there. Because if we don't, then all we're doing is trying to get somewhere else. And getting somewhere else is from the ego, saying that what you are is not good enough. What you are is fantastic. It's perfect already. You're perfect already. You don't need anything. And as soon as you know that, then life opens up and you get in the flow.
Well, I have to bring up a subject here because our mutual friend, Miss Pam Thomas.
I love her.
We love her, and she was gracious enough to bring you to us, or introduce us to you, I should say. And Pam is another person who I know she is a student of yours, and I've got through a period of time where everything was very stressful, and Pam called me crispy. And and I heard her channeling Max and all of this. I will tell you right now, she said, as long as you have no capacity because you're fried and crispy, nothing good is coming into your life. So you have to defry and decrispy in order to allow yourself to enjoy the moment as it is. So I think she was channeling you. I really do.
Love that. I love that. But you know what? We're never disconnected from source. We're never disconnected from what we might think we are, but we are not. We're never disconnected from that. And so when we're in that crispy stage, just the thought of, oh my God, I remember for a second that I'm not disconnected, that will change it. That will change it.
Okay, I've got a question that's actually come in from Sue, so if we can just kind of dive into this one at this point. She says, I hear what you're saying, that we have to go back to love, but everyone around me is stressed and they're miserable. How do I help them?
By helping yourself, Sue. Because everything in our life is a reflection of our vibration. The Course in Miracles and Law of Attraction says the exact same thing, that what we are perceiving in the world is a reflection of who we are. So, you take care of yourself, you be more of yourself, and if those people aren't meant to be in your life, if they're on a different vibrational resonance than you will literally vibe them out of your life because they're not meant to be there. Or they will change, or ultimately, it's not about changing them, it's changing your perception about them. That's the miracle.
Yeah, and Sue, one of the things that, since you asked the question the way you did, it's obvious that you are a caretaker.
Yeah.
Caretakers have the hardest time with this often because we look outside to take care of somebody else instead of looking inside to our own self. And until we look inside, we're not going to be able to see what Max is talking about. we're not going to be able to see the beauty and the vibration of love that's within us that will radiate out to these people. So turn your awareness into you, and that's a really good first step.
Very well said, Kenny. And I just want to address this because people come to me with this kind of stuff all the time, and this comes back to really being very in tune with our feelings, because many times we will think, oh, I'm coming from love, I'm coming from love. And if you're really, really honest with yourself, it's coming from a need to shift or help or change others. That's not love. Love is allowing people to be
ego.
who they are. Allowing them to be what they are. Because ultimately those people in our lives that are the crazy makers, you know them. We've all got them. Those people are our teachers about love.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing? I mean, Kenny, do you know anyone in your life that kind of is in that place? I can see it and hear it. Okay, should we talk about your mother or mine?
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, my God.
There's a laundry list,
There really is a laundry list. But, Max, I just love the way that you look at this. And, we talk to a lot of people who are dealing with the churn of everyone else. And when you take that time, as you said, to say, okay, what is it that I need? What is it that I want? How can I get myself to literally get back to that place of love? When we emulate that, when we become the role model, it affects others around us.
It does.
And as hard as it may be for them they may not like it. It's like, well, that's their choice. And I love what you said. Maybe they're not meant to be in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And maybe this was just an interaction.
In metaphysics and quantum theory, there is something called vibrational resonance and vibrational resistance. So what you are going to, we're only, literally everyone, you're only getting what you're vibrating. We're only getting what's resonating with us. That's it. So if you're getting a whole bunch of stuff that's making you go, oh my God, these people are crazy, you're resonating that. And that's the responsibility part of being a true mystical seeker and walking a mystical path, is that there's a responsibility. Now, a responsibility of saying, oh, there is part of me that is resonating with that. And that's why I'm experiencing it in my life. So responsibility sounds like a big and heavy and negative word, but it's your ability to respond. That's it. You go, oh my God, I have the ability to respond now. I can think differently. This too can be different because of what I'm going to focus on.
All right. I've got a question that popped up, and this is as much a personal question as I hear from way too many people, because you talk about we are what we resonate, as the case may be. So here's a good example. The person that's diagnosed with cancer, leukemia, MS, whatever the case may be. How do you help them understand they've brought into their life what they're resonating? Because, that's one in particular that people going, I didn't wish this on myself. I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. What do you mean I'm bringing this into my life? How do you help those folks?
First of all, I want to say the laws of spirit should never be used to make us feel bad. Ever. Ever. It should never be used to make us feel bad, because that's counterintuitive to what God is. God is love. That's it. Right. So if we use any of these spiritual principles that we're talking about to make us feel bad, that's the ego. That's the ego.
Got it.
So, and the other thing I want to say is that things like natural disasters, 9/11, cancer, all of that stuff, it is so complicated on some level that no matter what I say, what Cheryl, you say, what Kenny says, what Marianne Williams says, what whoever says, whatever they say is probably not going to be a good enough answer for you. So sometimes we don't know and we can't articulate an answer to that.
Mm-hmm.
See, now, I actually like that answer, Max, because truly there are things we don't have answers to.
Yeah.
And I believe that, but if you allow, as you say, allow the love to come in, allow your life to be about love, whatever's going to transpire is going to transpire because it should. But if you allow it to be the ego coming in, you're going to experience that too.
Yeah,
So,
I always say, think about this, and it takes a second to actually let this sink in, everyone, is that when we ask why questions to substantiate negative results, it engages the ego, and that's not the path that we want to be on.
now that is a great tip.
Yeah. So what we want to do is whenever we hear ourselves go, why don't I have money? Why is that person treating me bad? Because you know what the crazy ego will do? It will start to create tons and tons of reasons why you're a horrible person, why you deserve it, why you're such a horrible, you've lived a bad life, and then you didn't give a tip to that girl at lunch, and because of that, you're going to get this, and you will go crazy.
Oh.
And then it's a train wreck from there. So we want to ask why questions to substantiate positive results in our life. Why did that guy smile at me? Why did those people do that nice thing for me? And then, literally, Spirit will come and go, because you're a perfect child of God, and you deserve it. Everything's fine.
Max, I was taught something that I'd just like to share, which is right along the lines of what you're doing. It was a very dear friend of mine who's also a coach, taught me, instead of using the why word, she taught me to use this phrase, I wonder.
Yeah. Oh, I love it.
Use the why, and it automatically goes to curiosity, and it doesn't give the ego a chance to jump in. So it's really a cool deal. But Max, we do have a caller coming in now, and I believe it's Casey. Casey, are you with us?
I'm here. Can you hear me all right?
Yes. Do you have a question for Max?
Welcome.
Oh.
I have a question. Max, can you tell me a little bit about the concept in Course in Miracles called This Need Not Be?
Yes. Casey, hi, how are you?
Awesome. How about yourself?
I'm fantastic. Thank you for calling in. That is, you must be psychic because literally, Casey, right before this call, I was opening my Course in Miracles. I was looking at things. I was like, what is something? I turned to this section, but my second section that I have bookmarked is page 62, This Need Not Be. Literally, I have it bookmarked right here. So either I'm vibing with you or you're vibing with me, and who cares? It doesn't matter.
Exactly.
That's great.
Because, it talks about in that section about if we can't hear the voice for God, then we're in the world, and whatever we think is real is an illusion. But when we are being driven by all of this craziness of the world of not enough, too much, I'm sad, I'm happy, all the craziness of that dichotomy of everything, that's not real. That's not real. Because, as the Course in Miracles says over and over, there's only love. There's only love. So this need not be really comes from a real Eastern kind of Hindu kind of, actually Zen kind of idea that, there's a pendulum in life, and so the pendulum goes back between happy, sad, rich, poor, crazy, sane, and it's going back and forth. But at the top of the pendulum is the fulcrum. And the fulcrum is staying still. Our job is to connect with the fulcrum instead of the pendulum at the bottom. Because the world will always be happy, sad, rich, poor, all that stuff. But our relation to ourself and to God, whatever, is at the fulcrum where the pendulum starts. So this need not be is to see it for what it is. It's craziness. It's the craziness of the world. That makes sense, Casey? Do you hear what I'm saying?
I do hear what you're saying. That was a beautiful way to explain it, too.
Yeah, I like that analogy a lot too, actually. And so that part, I actually just, I'm going off right now because I think that it addresses what our main point of view in our life is. And so this need not be is just seeing it for what it is. It's insanity. It's insanity.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm. Casey, does that help? Does that answer your question?
It does, and thank you for taking my call. What's your name? I know I heard Kenny's
Cheryl.
name, but what's your name?
Hi, I'm Cheryl Maloney. Nice to meet you, Casey.
Same here. I love your show.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you being part of the show.
Yeah. Thank you, Casey. Sending you love.
Thanks so much for calling.
Thank you, Kenny.
Oh, Max, that was just extremely powerful, and I sat there and went, okay, this guy just came out with the question that just so resonated at that moment. So I think you guys were channeling your energies back and forth there. I really love that. It is, Max.
Yes.
I mean, we're literally drawn close to the end of an hour, and before we get there, will you please tell people how they can find you, your website, how they get in touch with you, so we don't lose that?
Sure. Thank you. Well, my main website is maxryan.net. Don't go to maxryan.com. That's gorgeous actor. I'm the other gorgeous guy. So everything I do is on maxryan.net, but I want to tell all the listeners that I have a free 5-day video program called Manifest with Max, and that literally is at manifestwithmax.com. It's 5 days of about 2 to 3 minute videos of me teaching you about the law of attraction. It's totally free to all of you, so check that out. The other thing is I'm going to be doing 2 more free law of attraction calls, Introduction to Law of Attraction calls, and it's on November 1st and November 9th. You can find out and sign up for those. I would love you to sign up for those. They're free, and I'm creating a prosperity course. I'm writing my book. I'm doing more videos. A lot of stuff going on.
Wow.
Max, your energy is absolutely amazing. I can tell you I'm signing up for all of those courses because you have such great energy that I just want to be able to feel it and share it more often. So I'm so excited that you're doing this.
Yeah.
I'm so thankful to both of you, and you both have amazing energy too. Really, I just love your style, your vibe. It all is wonderful, and you're doing great work to spread the word about that life doesn't have to be complicated. It actually is much more simple than we think.
Well, Max, thank you so much. Will you come back onto the show again?
I would love to.
Wonderful. Well, we are going to let you go. Thank you so much for being here. Again, for anyone, please check out maxryan.net. A lot of fabulous courses. I know I'm signing up because, you know what? Max is the kind of person that I need to hear his voice. So I'm really excited and really appreciate it.
Yes,
well, Kenny.
Thank you so much, Max.
Kenny, happy birthday again to everyone that's listening. Thank you for being here. We want to thank Max, our guest, for being here tonight, and for Brent Carey, who allows us to do this every single week. Kenny, we are so blessed in so many ways. And,
I know
and
we are.
Andrew. So Andrew and guest Rachel, who's listening in on Andrew's side, thanks for making us sound better than we have for a long period of time. Okay, I know that's my internet connection. Next week on Simple Steps, Real Change, you get Kenny and I, and it's Election Day. So I guess we'll have an Election Day surprise show for you. Kenny, have a good night.
Yeah, I will, and you do the same, Cheryl. And the Election Day surprise will be a good one. Okay?
Absolutely. Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Good night.